too. And to that song, we have to make the point. Little inside baseball. Early this morning at around 5 o'clock, maybe 4 o'clock, I don't know, we all got an email from one Joey Jones saying, I have a Labor Day song. We're all like, what? They have Labor Day songs? What's the Labor Day song? Put it in. They put it in 7 o'clock hour. Boom.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to think of a Labor Day song for the next hour.
Right. Anything about hard work, right? I mean, there's that. Well, the thing about Roll On is that it's about truck driving, but if you listen, they talk about steel mill workers and so.
I'm gonna have to go with 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Yes, Dolly.
Come on. Why isn't that the morning theme song?
Man, I really whiffed on that one. But Alabama's just got all these hard-working songs. You can't turn them down. As a Georgia fan, I feel bad for Alabama. Their football team isn't quite as good as ours. So I felt like I'd give the state a nod there.
That's taking people off the sport in Double J. They're on the Alabama.
What else is there to do? It's college football season.
They are still #1, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, you know, those preseason polls don't matter.
No. That game last night, just insane. I know Byron Donalds. We have Congressman Byron Donalds on all the time. For the last couple of years, we've had him on. They're like, your FSU Seminoles, they're not that good. They're not that good. They're 2-0. Watch out for them. They got it going on right now, beating a real team there in LSU. So we will see.
All right.
I'll take this because I know Rachel doesn't like the college footballs.
I know. I was waiting on Rachel to let us know about.
I'm not going to weigh in on football. You guys have been on the couch enough with me to know. Although I did learn what a tight end was.
An ET, a TE. I saw that was awesome. The FBI agent who resigned last week over backlash for his role in the Hunter Biden probe reportedly suppressed damning information.
And that's according to the New York Post sources, as the outlet has also revealed that a top DOJ lawyer was partners with Hunter's attorney.
Alexandria Hoff joins us live in Washington. Alexandria?
Joey, Todd, Rachel, this is a wild web. So let's start here with Hunter Biden's former business partner, Tony Bobulinski. He came forward as a whistleblower prior to the 2020 election to reveal then-candidate Joe Biden's involvement with his son's business dealings in China. According to reporting by the New York Post, FBI agent Timothy Thibault was assigned to handle that case. Sources tell the New York Post that Thibault suppressed the evidence that was given to him. Bobulinski spoke with Tucker Carlson about an email he had outlining how the Biden family would split profits when the man called the big guy was vice president.
In that email, there's a statement where they go through the equity. Jim Biden's referenced as, 10%, doesn't say Biden, it says Jim. And then it has 10% for the big guy held by H. I 1,000% sit here and know that the big guy is referencing Joe Biden. That's crystal clear to me because I lived it. I met with the former vice president in person.
So despite being interviewed extensively for hours about this by the FBI, the New York Post writes, neither Bobulinski nor his lawyer was contacted again, nor was Bobulinski brought before a Delaware grand jury investigating Hunter. The New York Post also reporting that a top Justice Department official, Chris Clark, worked with Hunter Biden's attorney, Nicholas McCade. They were at the same law firm together. And the Treasury Department, guys, also taking heat as well for not providing potentially suspicious business transactions of the Biden family. And Republican James Comer called it unacceptable, a cover, writing this: it is a matter of national security to know if President Biden is compromised. And Comer says that if Republicans earn a majority in Congress, they will pursue answers on this. I'll send it back to you.
Alexandria Hoff, live for us this morning. Thanks, Alexandria. With that, let us bring in Iowa GOP Senator Chuck Grassley, ranking member of the Senate Judiciary Committee. Thank you so much for being here. Look, Tebow is not the only one who worked for the FBI. Presumably, there are other people who work for the FBI. How has it taken 2 years for this information to come to light? How did this Timothy Tebow guy conceal this information from Tony Bobulinski for basically 2 years now?
We wouldn't even know about it if there weren't whistleblowers, very patriotic people in the Justice Department that came to me and gave me this information about Tebow. He opens an investigation against Trump based upon very just fuzzy newspaper reporting, and then closes down an investigation on Hunter. And at least Ray moved him out of that position, and now he's not even in the department. But I think Ray has to do much more to come up with a plan to show that this political bias within the FBI is going to be attacked and rooted out.
Well, can I just say, and I want to just follow up quickly on this. I mean, that interview was with Tucker Carlson. I mean, we've kind of known that Joe Biden was the big guy for 2 years. It's really shocking. And by the way, we just found out through Trump's speech, his rally that he gave this weekend, that the FBI rifled through Barron Trump's bedroom. Where the heck are they in Hunter Biden's? And by the way, this is about him being, Joe Biden being compromised. This isn't even about the corruption.
Yeah. You use the word corruption, and if there isn't corruption, the way they take care of that is by total transparency, whether it's in regard to the most recent raid in Florida, or whether it's how they treated Hillary Clinton different than Trump, or what they're doing with Tebow, or we have this instance of McQuaid, a guy by McQuaid, second in the criminal division in DOJ, that was a law partner of Hunter's, and we're trying to find out whether he's recused himself from any investigations and to potential prosecution of Hunter Biden, and nothing seems to be moving. We have that laptop in the Department of Justice and FBI for months and months before anybody knows it existed, and we're told that there were people said, don't touch the laptop. Are they an enforcement agency or aren't they? Are they using political bias or not? That's why total transparency is important. The public's business has to be public.
Yeah, Senator, it kind of comes to mind how much smoke before someone pulls the fire alarm, I guess. Listen, moving on, this is the last few months of this Congress to have the opportunity to get legislation passed. I know the midterms are coming up. I know there's going to be a lot of campaigning. But where is the Senate on getting some things done, either judicial nominees or, it seems like the government shutdown comes around with the holidays every year now. What do you think can be done with such a divided Congress?
Well, I think the only thing that's going to get done before now in the election is to fund the government into next year, and it probably won't be fully funded for the 12 months with a continuing resolution being used instead, and I think that's about all we're going to get done during September. We will be in session probably until October the 10th or 15th, but I don't expect a lot to get done, and that's not a whole lot different than most election years, as you probably know.
Understood. Before we let you go, Senator, you're in front of corn. Presumably, you've worked hard throughout your life picking said corn. What is your Labor Day message to other workers out there?
We honor the working men and women. Just having a job and supporting yourself and moving this country along is very important. We honor them. I kind of know what they went through because when I was a state legislator meeting every other year and starting a small farming operation, I moonlighted on a assembly line in Cedar Falls, Iowa, punching screw holes in furnace registers for 10 years when the legislature wasn't in session. I was a union member. I think I have some understanding of the people that produce and work hard to keep this country going. They're all taxpayers. We need to honor them. I honor them, and they're the backbone of our society, and they deserve much more than what one Labor Day gives them. We need to honor anybody that has a quality job that they enjoy and an opportunity to improve themselves. And this is the day that they should say hi. We should say thank you to them.
Senator, the Republican Party, many say, and I agree, is now the party of the working class, the party of men and women. As you described your early childhood or your early years of working in the union, it's the party of the working class. Talk to me about that transformation.
Well, I think it's because the Democratic Party has turned so progressive, and some people see it as socialistic. The government is the answer to everything. All the brains in this country, people in Washington think lies there in Washington. Washington's an island surrounded by reality. The real America is outside of the Beltway, and it's here in the Midwest, in Iowa and other states. where people work hard. They're patriotic. They love America. They don't want to transform America like the Democratic Party wants to do. We want to preserve America. We want to preserve America.
Absolutely. I think the party that lands on common sense, common good, and common ground probably will win in the midterms, and it looks like Republicans are putting that message out there. Senator, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Senator.
Thank you.
With that, let us toss it on over to Ashley Strohmeyer for a look at our headlines. Ash.
Hey, guys, good morning. We're going to start with this. The desperate search for a kidnapped billionaire heiress ramps up as a judge sets a $500,000 bail for the accused abductor. Police say 38-year-old Cleotha Abston violently attacked the mom. Her name is mom of two, actually, Eliza Fletcher. That brutal attack reportedly caught on surveillance video. Police seizing a dumpster outside the suspect's brother's home where he may have left evidence. Fletcher was abducted during a morning run on Friday. And now to this shocking video showing a car intentionally ramming an SUV in New York City this weekend. Police say suspect stole $20,000 at gunpoint from the SUV's driver. This as a new report from the NYPD shows crime soaring in the Big Apple with increases in nearly every major category. Police say as of last week, the rate of serious crimes is up more than 35% over last year. Robberies, burglaries, grand larceny, and auto thefts all rising between 32.6 and 46.2%. A nonprofit organization in North Carolina which raises money for youth athletics is facing criticism for offering a rifle as a fundraising prize. The organization clarified in a social media post that they are not affiliated with the local schools and responded to the pushback by saying it was open to alternative suggestions for raising the necessary funds. It was a crazy finish in New Orleans after LSU goes down the field against Florida State and scores a touchdown with only seconds left on the clock. But the Seminoles blocking the extra point with no time left for the 24-23 win. And then Texas quarterback Quinn Ewers shined in the Longhorn season opening, but his parking could use a little work. He tweeted out the bad news, wondering, how'd I get towed during the game? You know what? I get towed at work all the time. I'm with you, man.
I think there must have been an A&M fan driving
Right?
the tow truck, I guess. There
It
in
is a
Austin.
bad feeling, though. You're like, wait a second.
His week could get a lot worse. No offense to Will Kane, your co-anchor there on the weekends, but if I'm not mistaken, they play
And they play Alabama, the second best SEC team right now.
I set him up. But that game last night, wow. I mean, you talk about first game of the Brian Kelly era. Everybody's excited. All the folks, I know a lot of people there in Louisiana excited for this. They're like, we're going to turn this ship around after the disaster of the last 2 years. Uh-oh.
You know, that game turned out the way it needed to.
Okay.
I think so, because LSU, they're going to keep building, and that fan base isn't going anywhere. FSU was literally on their last chance. So I like it when other teams are good too. Georgia can't be the only class to field, and so those teams looked really good.
Are you going to be insufferable for the remaining season if Georgia remains undefeated?
Georgia will remain undefeated, and I'll just make sure you guys know about it.
Understood.
All right. Coming up, federal officers are scrambling to locate nearly a dozen unaccompanied migrant children after the Biden administration released them into the U.S. The disturbing report out of Texas straight ahead.
But first, the stay-at-home economy. While the White House touts the jobs reports, critics say government subsidies are driving Americans out of the workforce. Stephen Moore breaks down the economic reality next.
The economy is continuing. We're seeing that job growth, which is very important. We're seeing labor participation in that data. We saw working women participating in the labor market, and that's because of the work that this president has done. The American Rescue Plan, just to talk about that for just a quick second, that was not voted by any Republicans, and that helped turn the economy back on. That's why we saw these historic gains, and we are going to make sure we hold on to this historic gains. And that's what is all about when the president talks about his economy plan, making sure there's equity, making sure we leave no one behind.
The White House enthusiastically touting President Biden's economic record this Labor Day weekend, but some, including our network's own Steve Hilton, is firing back, saying that's not what's happening.
Joe Biden's America is not working. Yes, it's true that the unemployment rate is low. But the main reason the rate is low is because so many Americans have just stopped looking for work. Around 40% of Americans of working age are not working. That's not just an economic disaster, but a social disaster.
Stephen Moore served as an economic advisor to Donald Trump, and he joins us now. Stephen, I'm so glad to have you because I've been wondering this. I sit on the couch on the weekends with Will and Pete, and we've been going, how are these people surviving? These, 40% of the population who's able-bodied, able to work, and they're not participating in the work economy. How are they surviving? Is it leftover COVID money, handouts?
Well, good morning, Rachel. Happy Labor Day. First of all, I have to say that for Joe Biden to be touting this economy would be like, John F. Kennedy touting the Bay of Pigs. I mean,
Yes.
This economy has been a disaster under Biden. When Biden came in, we had the booming economy coming out of COVID under Trump. And you look at the situation today, Rachel, where the average middle-income family, working class people have lost about $4,000 in income because inflation is so high. So the real take-home pay is shrinking month after month. And we saw that again on Friday's report, Rachel, that showed the same trend, 8% inflation, right, and 5% wage gains. It's easy to do that math. It means people month after month are losing 3% of their paycheck. And so that's why I think Americans are so, feeling down about the condition of this economy. And you're right. The other problem is, as you called it, the stay-at-home economy. You've got a lot of workers who should be working. They're not disabled. They could be working, and they are collecting these massive welfare benefits. Look, people are getting free food. They're getting free health care. They're getting free rental assistance. They're getting monetary payments. You can get $75,000 and not work a single hour.
Why is that still in place? Why hasn't it been cut off? Because as Steve Hilton alluded to, it's not just an economic tragedy, it's a social tragedy. People who don't work are depressed. They don't start families, which we know is the greatest source of happiness. So what's happening, and why isn't Congress cutting off these funds so we can get people back to work?
Yeah, and by the way, this problem started under Obama, but it's been intensified under Biden. We've gotten rid of all of the work requirements, Rachel, that were a success. They were actually signed into law by a Democratic president, Bill Clinton, and a Republican Congress. And we got people off of welfare into work so they could get a paycheck. Virtually all of those work requirements are gone, Rachel, and that should be the top priority of the next Congress. We want to make sure we have a safety net so people don't go hungry or lose their home, but we also want to make sure people are getting back into the workforce. And of course, don't forget the other big issue in terms of this stay-at-home economy. A big issue starts tomorrow, where a lot of these big companies want to get their workers back into the office. In Washington, D.C., in the federal government, you have federal government workers for 2 years have never shown up to the office, and they're still getting paychecks, and COVID was over a year ago.
Yeah, well, Steve, we should start with Congress. Many of them are still voting via Zoom, and they're not coming in, and it's wrong. It's wrong. It's sending the wrong message to our country, and it's sending an especially dangerous message to young people who are our future. Stephen Moore, you are always, I wish you were in charge of our economy right now. I think things would be a lot better. Thanks
I wish
a lot.
Donald Trump. I wish Donald Trump were in charge of our economy.
I agree, and you were one of his advisors, and he picked well on that one. Thank you, Stephen Moore. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. We're up next. We've got 63 days out from Election Day, and one Democrat is dismissing predictions of a red wave.
We're going to hold the majority in the House because we have a plan to fix the problems our country is facing.
Former House Speaker Newt Gingrich on what he expects to happen in November. He's up next. Stay with
Midterms. President Biden is marking Labor Day in 2 major battleground states. As party leaders predict, he's got nothing to worry about.
We're going to hold the majority in the House because we have a plan to fix the problems our country is facing. The other side has only a ploy to win back power for themselves. This election is about mainstream versus MAGA, and I'm proud that we have a president that knows right from wrong.
Fox News contributor Newt Gingrich is author of Defeating Big Government Socialism. He joins us now to react. Good morning. Listen, first of all, over the weekend we saw the Dogs do really well. I know you're a Dogs fan, so if you want to give it a go Bulldogs real quick, you can go ahead and do that. I'll let you have it.
Listen, I think they'll end up as #1 again.
I think so, too. But moving on to more important things, you heard it there. I guess,
more important?
Well, to our audience, maybe not to the Georgians out there. A few months ago, I was hearing Republicans are going to pick up 30 seats, maybe even more in the House. And now Democrats are trying to sell us that they're going to keep the House. Is that even possible?
Well, look, in life, anything's possible. Is it likely? No.
Yeah.
We've had our usual August. When I finally won election, I was behind 51-37 in August. George H.W. Bush was behind 19 points in May and became president of the United States. Well, the point of campaigns is to drive home facts. It's a fact that President Biden went to Philadelphia, gave a hateful speech in a city which has the highest murder rate in its history, a city with the highest armed robbery rate, the highest carjacking rate. 70% of Philadelphians say crime and safety is their biggest issue. The Democratic nominee, Fetterman, voted to release 25 murderers from prison. When that sinks in, I think we'll win the Senate race. The president's problem is he has no answer on inflation, no answer for the 20 million families who are behind on their electricity bills because prices keep going up, no answer for an open border policy, which has led to over 100,000 deaths last year from overdose. Twice as many Americans died last year from drug overdose as died in the entire Vietnam War, and Biden has no answer at all. So I think as we get into the fall campaign, Republicans will do very well. I think Kevin McCarthy's commitment plan will lay out a terrific range of future actions. And I think, in fact, if the Democrats had all these plans, why didn't they do them? They didn't do them, and the country's a mess.
You know, what you're talking about there is legislative successes that Biden wants to tout over last month. We're talking about the Inflation Reduction Act, perhaps student loan debt forgiveness. He wants to tout this bipartisan infrastructure package that a lot of Republicans voted for. If Kevin McCarthy does get the House and the speakership, what can he do or what should he do, presuming that the Democrats hold on to the Senate?
Well, first of all, I think the Democrats are going to lose the Senate, too. I believe that Rick Scott is right. We have good candidates. We're probably going to pick up somewhere between 4 and 6 seats. I think Herschel Walker is going to win in Georgia. I think Oz is going to win in Pennsylvania. Vance is going to win in Ohio. I personally believe Ron Johnson is going to do very well in Wisconsin. We're going to pick up the seat in Nevada. With Adam Laxalt, who's a great candidate. So I feel pretty good about the Senate and the House. First thing they ought to do is take head on the spending issue. The country understands that government spending is driving inflation. Inflation is making every American poorer. And I think that the average American would support a strong, smaller government, lower taxes, less regulation plan. Every poll I've seen says the average American thinks government's too big and it's causing too much inflation. So I think that's where they should start.
Well, Biden's got his message that he's taken to Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, maybe a mulligan on the Pennsylvania side. We'll see if voters react well to it or if they're picking up what the Republicans are putting down. Mr. Speaker, thank you for joining us.
Good to be with you.
All right, we're back with a Fox weather alert. A state of emergency has been declared in Georgia after severe thunderstorms dumped up to 12 inches of rain in northwestern parts of the state. Flash flooding leaving several main roadways underwater as residents tried to stop the flooding from the rain in their homes. Officials warning several areas are still facing life-threatening situations. Let's check in with our very own senior meteorologist, Janice Dean, for a Fox weather forecast. Good morning, Janice.
Good morning, Joey. Unfortunately, we've got more rain in the forecast across saturated areas from Texas through the southeast up towards the mid-Atlantic. You can see the rainfall along the Gulf Coast. You can see moving in towards the Atlanta, Georgia area up towards the mid-Atlantic and the northeast, where we're going to heavy rain today in and around the New York City area up towards Boston. So the eastern third of the country, that's where we're really focused. You can see where we have the flood watches from northern Georgia all the way up towards Portland, Maine. 3 to 5 inches in just a couple of days. Even though we need the rain, too much of a good thing is going to cause some flooding. So just know what to do if there's a watch or a warning in your area. The other big story today is the heat. It hangs on to much of the country, especially California, the Great Basin, where we have heat alerts, excessive heat warnings, well over 100 degrees for some of these regions, and we're going to set some daytime records. In the tropics, it's really incredible that we are into peak season, and none of these storms are really going to impact the U.S., which is great news. So we will continue to monitor that for you. But going back to the heat, here are some of the daytime records we're going to hit today. 114 in Sacramento, Fresno 111, and this heat has hung on for weeks and weeks, so prolonged areas of extreme heat is going to cause problems. Just make sure you're checking on the elderly and your kids, and you're bringing your pets inside as well. All right, Joey, my friend, over to you.
Thank you very much. A lot going on there. Glad people are tuned in and staying up to date. Thanks, Janice.
Sounds
All
good.
right. Let's toss to Ashley Strohmeyer for our headlines.
Hey, Joe, we're going to start with a devastating wildfire in Northern California. The intense fire has killed 2 people, burning homes to the ground and leaving hundreds without power. More than 1,000 people were forced to evacuate the small town of Weed as temperatures rise and the fire shows no signs of slowing. The blaze, dubbed the Mill Fire, began Friday and is only 40% contained, according to CAL FIRE. And the United Kingdom is eagerly awaiting the answer of who will replace the outgoing Prime Minister Boris Johnson. That announcement is expected any minute between Foreign Secretary Liz Truss and former Finance Minister Rishi Sunak. Truss is currently favored to get the job as the UK faces looming economic and energy crisis. Piers Morgan will join us later with more on that big announcement. And Minnesota Twins catcher Gary Sanchez narrowly avoiding injury after nearly getting hit in the head. Oh my gosh, his teammate giving Sanchez a little chin music, almost taking off his head while he was practicing his swing, missing his face by just inches. Now, at the end of the day, Sanchez and the Twins took home a 5-1 win against the Chicago White Sox. That is scary right there. All right, Joey, back to you.
That's tough. That's tough. They got lucky on that one. All right. Thanks, Ashley. All right. Coming up, Houston police.
As the U.S. faces a record surge of unaccompanied minors at the border, a shocking new report revealing dozens of migrant children now missing after the Biden administration released them into Texas. Texas Congressman Tony Gonzalez here to react. Congressman, this is really scary stuff. How worried are you that these kids are going to be swallowed up in the world of child prostitution and other horrible aspects of what I would call the vice industry?
Yeah, thank you for having me. You know, sadly, this has been ongoing for over a year. You know, last year I submitted a piece of legislation, the Bipartisan Border Solutions Act, and it's bipartisan, both in the House and the Senate, and it has gone absolutely nowhere. One of the things that piece of legislation does, it tracks children after they've left U.S. custody. They're going into these places. We don't know what's happening. And we're not talking 1 or 2. These are tens of thousands of unaccompanied children that are going all over the country. It's disheartening. I'm a father of 6. You know, regardless of a child's legal status, we should all be protecting them. I think all the time, who is protecting the innocent? Certainly not Joe Biden, certainly not House Democrats.
Yeah, you hit the nail right on the head. I'm thinking about this through the lens of a father, thinking about my little girls, and this scares the you-know-what out of me. Are some of these quote-unquote sponsors, Congressman, do you worry that they're actually human traffickers?
Yeah, 100%. You know, at the beginning of this process, they would vet, you would vet everyone in a household. And because of the overwhelming number of folks, they trimmed that down to only vetting the sponsor. Well, guess what? If you're the sponsor, but you live in a household with 5 other people and someone has a criminal record, it's an issue. You know, the other part of it, too, is this isn't just in Texas. You know, there are migrants going to all parts of the country. You know, Chicago here just recently. In San Antonio, we have a migrant center. There are 35 firefighters and 26 law enforcement officers that man that. What does that mean? Our firefighters are no longer fighting fires, and now they're babysitting. So what ends up happening is the city's resources get sucked up into this too. This crisis impacts absolutely everybody, including the innocent, including the migrants themselves.
Meantime, Border Patrol in Del Rio issuing a warning of quote-unquote extreme importance, asking migrants to, quote, please avoid crossing illegally after the deaths of at least 9 migrants. Shouldn't we be able to come out with something a little bit more effective than a, hey, please don't do this? I mean, I got to think, where's the humanity in letting women and kids drown, and only people that are benefiting are these migrant cartels?
You know, this is the part that boggles me, is the Biden administration has just completely turned a blind eye to the chaos, the carnage at the border, because it doesn't fit their politics. The House Democrats have done the same. It's the reason why they're going to lose and House Republicans are going to win back the majority. Is, look, in Del Rio, I asked myself a few months ago, all the migrants were going to Del Rio. And then all of a sudden they stopped going to Del Rio and they started going to Eagle Pass. So I asked a few folks on the ground, hey, why did that happen? Why all of a sudden is no one going to Del Rio? Everyone's going to Eagle Pass, where this dangerous water is located at. And they go, Tony, it's completely because of the cartels. The cartels basically shook down the maquiladores, which are the factories on the other side of Del Rio. And they said, hey, look, you pay us X amount of dollars, we will move the route to Eagle Pass. So what I'm getting at is our southern border is not secure, and the Biden administration spends no time. Why isn't President Biden visiting the border to see it themselves? Why isn't Nancy Pelosi visiting, or any other House Democrats?
Well, I think we know the answer to that. And look, it's not just migrants that are dying. Americans are dying because of fentanyl in the heartland, in the states in the interior, because it's being trafficked through the border up into the interior and killing our kids and our adults for that matter. Isn't the killing of Americans enough of a quote unquote threat to democracy that the Democrats love to whine about?
Oh, 100%. There is nothing more precious to us than our children. Nothing more precious to a country than our children. You know, in Del Rio last week, we had 4 people pass away due to fentanyl. That's right along the border. I know every city in America has similar stories that are happening every single week. It's the death that is being caused. It's also the disruption. You know, I was in El Paso about 2 weeks ago visiting with Border Patrol agents. And one of the things that the agents mentioned to me that I thought was telling was, they go, hey, Tony, we get assaulted a lot of times. I know what you see on TV is folks just walking over the border, but what you don't see is when people don't want to get apprehended. He goes, 97% of all assaults in the El Paso sector aren't being prosecuted, meaning they're just letting these people go. He also told me he had dozens of agents. This was the vice president of the union there, told me he has dozens of agents that aren't going to work because they're injured due to some type of assault they incurred while on duty.
It's sad, it's preventable, yet it's happening worse and worse every single day. Congressman Tony Gonzalez, thank you, sir. Still ahead, Hillary Clinton revealing what she thinks is
personal courage and selfless service. Guide our nation and leaders. Preserve us all under the canopy of your everlasting love and care. It is in your majestic and mighty name I pray. Amen. Thank you, General. Please be seated. Please be seated. Well, welcome to the White House. You know, this is a day that I quite frankly think being president is inadequate, because there's so many brave women and men in here, and so many people we're honoring today. Mr. Secretary, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs, senior military officers, thank you all for being here. Yesterday marked the 246th anniversary of this nation's independence. 246 years of struggle and sacrifice to uphold the principles so dear to the character of our nation: liberty, democracy, God-given rights of every individual. It's a journey that has never finished, and it never will be fully finished. It's a work that requires us to look ahead to the future we want to build, and to look carefully at our past, to understand fully where we've come from. For each of those 246 years, American patriots have answered our nation's call to military service. They stood in the way of danger, risked everything, literally everything, to defend our nation and our values. However, not every service member has received the full recognition they deserve. Today, we're setting the record straight. We're upgrading the awards of 4 soldiers who performed acts of incredible heroism during the Vietnam conflict to respect the conspicuous gallantry